Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine Quijano. Thank you for joining us. Any moment now, President Trump will be taking the stage at a rally in El Paso, Texas. As soon as it begins, we will bring it to you live. The president is expected to push for border funding tonight. It comes as key negotiators for a spending deal announced late Monday they've reached an agreement in principle. The specifics regarding a border wall aren't clear yet. Lawmakers have until this Friday to finalize plans in order to avoid a government shutdown. Let's go now to our chief congressional correspondent, Nancy Cordes, who joins us now by phone. Nancy, what can you tell us about this deal in principle?
Well, Elaine, all we know right now is that the key negotiators who had been holding a series of meetings throughout this afternoon and evening to discuss what had been stalled negotiations came out rather suddenly and said that they had an agreement in principle. We don't, however, know what that agreement in principle looks like. In fact, when reporters asked them whether we would see any kind of write-up tonight of what's in the deal, one of the lawmakers actually laughed and said no. So it sounds like they've got some kind of agreement that deals with some of these sticky issues that had led negotiations to be stalled throughout the weekend, but we may have to wait until morning to know exactly what the negotiation looks like. For example, one of these key sticking points was whether Democrats were going to get their way on limiting the number of beds at ICE detention facilities around the country. And so we're left tonight not knowing whether they were successful or whether they decided to drop that bid in favor of getting a deal and staving off a government shutdown.
And remind us, Nancy, at last word, did we have specifics on numbers that were acceptable for some sort of border barrier? Because we know initially, of course, the president had said he wanted $5.7 billion for a quote-unquote wall.
Right. So, being acceptable to Congress is one thing. Being acceptable to the president is quite another. And it's never been completely clear whether the president would be willing to accept a significant decrease in the amount of wall funding that he was looking for, and whether he would be content with a border barrier funding package rather than funding specifically for a wall. His chief of staff on the Sunday show said that if the president doesn't get all $5.7 billion he's looking for, he'll just find that money some other way. So that did signal some wiggle room. But if all of the money that negotiators are putting towards a barrier, and last time they were sharing with us, it was something within the $1 to $2 billion range, so less than half of what the president was looking for. It was really going more specifically towards fencing, either new fencing or repairing old fencing, not a steel border wall like the president has been seeking. And so the question is, can he accept not just a reduction in funding from what he was initially seeking, but also really a different definition of a border barrier.
Right. And as you've been speaking, Nancy, we are looking at an image at where the president will be holding his rally in El Paso, Texas. Quite prominently there is a sign that says, quote, "Finish the wall." So we'll wait to see what the president says, if anything, about this deal in principle. Perhaps he won't mention it. We'll watch. But Nancy Cordes, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and reporting.
You're welcome.